it's Annette and welcome to Cotto Verde. Today I'm going to show you the plug plants that I've purchased, and I'm going to take you through the different varieties and why I've chosen those varieties, tell you a little bit about the plants, maybe give you some inspiration for your gardens this year, and I'm also going to explain a bit about why I choose to order plug plants. In case you don't know what a plug plant is, it's a very small plant, and I think it's called a plug because it's just like a tiny little capsule of earth or compost that surrounds the root. Let me show you one. So this is a little plug plant, and it's basically the size of the top half of my thumb. That's the root ball, and then they'll come in various different heights, so they won't all necessarily be very short. Some of them will be a bit taller, but basically they're grown in these tiny little cells, and so they come with just a very little bit of compost, but normally a good root ball. Hopefully you can see all those really good roots there. You might be wondering why I choose to buy plug plants when I grow so many things from seed, and really it's because I don't have enough room to grow everything that I want to grow from seed, and so I expedite it by buying in things that can tolerate the cold. So I'll buy in things that are maybe evergreen or perennials that can go out in the garden either straight away or into pots into my nursery area, and I don't have to baby them and put them in the greenhouse. And so those are the kind of things that I'll buy as plug plants. And the reason I buy plug plants and not larger plants is, financially, it's for a financial reason. It's because it's much cheaper. I can buy 6 plug plants for like £5.45, and the actual plant itself would be a lot more than that. It would be maybe £8 or £9. So financially, it's much cheaper for me to buy in the plug plants if I want more than one of that particular plant. So what I'm going to do now is just go through the different varieties that I've ordered in and tell you a bit about each plant. But if you want to know anything more about plug plants, if you don't know about plug plants, then do put it in the comments below and I'll get back to you. I'm happy to talk about it. I just think that a lot of people might know about plug plants already. So let's start going through the plants that I've got in today. So the first plants I'm going to talk about are the creeping phlox that I've ordered. Now, creeping phlox are excellent for ground cover. They have beautiful fragrant flowers, and what's best about them is that they're evergreen. So that is in my zone. I'm in a zone 8A approximately. So anything that is like H3 or H4 can be kept outside and will make it through the winters here. And as I said, the phlox are evergreen. They're also deer resistant, which is quite important in my garden, although I do have a deer fence now, so we'll see whether that works and keeps the deer out. Creeping phlox are really good for places like, crevices in walls or rock gardens or, alpine troughs, or just anywhere where it's going to be very free draining. Creeping phlox are really good ground cover, especially because they're evergreen, but they like a lot of organic matter. They don't particularly like it if it's really very dry, but they can cope with dry soil. In fact, it's probably better that it's dry. And once the flowers have finished blooming, you can sort of shear it back and make it a nice, neat mound again, and it'll be ready for next season. The creeping phlox like a sunny spot, and they will flower from May through June. So the two that I've ordered today, the first one is called Candy Stripe, and it's got tiny little white flowers with a pink stripe on each petal, and it grows 10 centimeters high by 60 wide at its maximum. And then the other one that I've ordered is called White Delight, and this is just a white creeping phlox, absolutely gorgeous little white flowers, and it will grow to the same, so it'll be 10 centimeters high and 60 centimeters across at its maximum. The next set of plugs I've ordered are erodiums. These again are evergreen perennials. They either like to be in full sun or part shade, and they are again very low growing, so they are good for rock gardens, ground cover, alpine troughs, putting in crevices. You see them tumbling over walls sometimes. They're good for pots, as are the creeping phlox that I mentioned earlier. The erodiums I've chosen are the Bishop's variety, and I should actually mention that the Bishop's variety are evergreen, and not all erodiums are evergreen. The best thing about these erodiums is that whilst they don't have a fragrance, they will flower for a much longer period than the creeping phlox. So they're going to flower from May right through to September, which is absolutely brilliant. The first of the two erodiums I've ordered is called Bishop's Form, and this has got lovely rose pink flowers with sort of darker green hairy leaves. You can see from the leaves that these definitely come from the geranium family. They're part of the geranium family. The second one I've ordered is called Bishop's White, and these have lovely starry shaped white flowers. Both of these erodiums grow to 20 centimeters tall by 60 wide, so they are probably twice the height of the creeping phlox, but I think they all go really well together, and I'm going to be putting some of these in pots and the rest of them I'm going to be scattering around to try and form clumps of really colourful ground cover. Then I've got some Gaura, or I believe they're now called Oenothera. These again are perennials. They're bushy plants that have sort of really very delicate starry shaped flowers that sort of dance in the breeze, and they're sometimes, you know, likened to butterflies, the way that they sort of tower above the plant and sparkle around. They're gorgeous. I've got some already in my garden, but these are new varieties. Gaura like full sun, and they look really good in like a prairie style planting scheme. So if you mix them with grasses, you know, where they can sort of intermingle and sway with all those types of plants, they look really cool. Gaura tend to come in white or shades of pink, from pale pink to darker pink, and they will flower all summer long. So they're going to flower from May right through to autumn. And what I particularly like about Gaura is that some of the stems have a lot of colour, so they'll be like dark red or lighter red. So they really do, even if when they're not flowering, they kind of add something to the garden anyway. The two Gaura that I've chosen in this order are both shorter varieties, so they're going to grow to about 40 centimetres by 30 centimetres wide. So they are shorter than the other Gaura that I got in my garden, but the reason I've chosen these is because I think they're going to look really cute in pots or at the front of a border, mixed in with other things that I've got there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they look like. So the first one that I've got is from the Gambit series, and it's called Variegata Rose. It's got really unusual variegated leaves, and it's going to flower from May to October. As I said, it's going to grow to 40 centimetres high by 30 centimetres wide, and it's got these lovely sort of candy pink flowers. Gaura prefer full sun, as you can imagine, in the prairie setting. That's what they're going to get. And they will perform really well if you give them full sun. The second Gaura I've got in this order is called Whisker Deep Rose. This one is also going to grow to 40 centimetres tall, but it may grow slightly wider, maybe up to 40 centimetres wide. It's a really deep rose colour with these gorgeous white filaments coming out of the centre, which really contrasts so beautifully with the colour of the petals. The next plant I've ordered is an Achillea or yarrow, and the reason that I've chosen this one in particular is because I want to cut them to dry. So it's not necessarily for my garden because it's really not the colour that I'd normally go for, but I want to dry these and be able to use them during the festive season in decorations and things like that. This Achillea is called Sassy Summer Sangria, and it comes in shades of red, and it's going to grow to 80 centimetres tall and 90 centimetres wide. So 80 centimetres tall, that's quite tall for an Achillea. It's probably one of the taller ones. They like, you know, full sun with well-drained soil, and they do not like to be fertilised. So the poorer the soil, the better for yarrow, really. The other great thing about yarrow or Achillea is that if you don't cut it, then it looks spectacular in the frosts or under snow. You know, if you leave them in the garden through the winter, they do provide interesting and good structure, and obviously seeds for the wildlife, or, you know, nesting places for the wildlife. The next plant I've ordered is called Campanula persicifolia Tychon White, which is just a really long name. So these are evergreen, which is absolutely brilliant news because I definitely need more evergreen colour in my garden, and they're going to grow to 60 centimetres tall and 60 centimetres wide. So these are clump forming herbaceous perennials, and they're going to have outward facing bell-shaped flowers in lovely pure white. It's important to know about campanulas that they don't like wet winters, but they are going to flower all summer long. So this particular variety is really good for cutting, and if you can prolong the flowering by cutting it or deadheading through the season. The next plant that I've ordered is called Gypsophilia rosenschleria, or rosy veil. This is baby's breath. Gypsophilia is baby's breath. This is a semi-evergreen perennial, and it's going to grow to 50 centimeters tall and 60 centimeters wide. And as you can see, it's got these gorgeous narrow grey-green leaves with small light pink flowers all summer long, July through August into September maybe, and it sort of creates this frothy haze, and it's loved by florists. It looks really good in flower arrangements, so I definitely plan to cut some of this, and it's just going to form this sort of tumbling mound in the flower bed. It's really good for dry borders or the edge of a border. I'm hoping it's going to look really good with the Onothera that I've ordered. So I'm really hoping to mix some of these plants together and just create a dry border. We had a really dry summer last summer, and so one thing that I'm really looking for in my garden is areas that we don't have to focus on watering so much, and I really want to create like a gravel garden or an area where I'm just not going to have to, you know, worry about the water system. So I'm really excited about the next plant that I've ordered. It's a Hebe, and it's called James Sterling. And the reason that I love this one so much is because it looks a little bit like a cypress, and it forms these like nice dense mounds with little white sparkly flowers on it. But it's not for the flowers that I want it. I want it because of the structure of the plant and because it's evergreen, and they're really good for like lining paths. So I have this vision of, you know, my pathway lined with these gorgeous little green mounds, and that's why I've ordered this plant, and I've ordered quite a few of them. So it's going to take a little while because they're plug plants. They are not going to be, you know, they're full size for a little while, but you know, I definitely hope that by next year my vision is going to look amazing. So because these are evergreen and they form these lovely sort of little mounds, they're going to look really good in a winter garden. And as I said before, that's something that I'm looking for in my garden. I really need more winter interest. They're also great with alpines, and I should mention that they like full sun or can tolerate part shade. I've got a couple more that I want to mention. The first one is a Nepeta, and this one is called Marvelet Blue, and it grows to 30 centimeters tall by 30 wide and loves full sun. And Nepeta is a cat mint, so I think it's a little treat for my cats. They'll probably love it. This particular one has got masses of large, striking purple blue flowers, and will be perfect for pots because it doesn't grow very tall. It smells minty, obviously, because it comes from the cat mint family, and it's just a really easy and reliable plant. It doesn't spread like other mint. It likes dry or moist soil, and if you cut it, give it a clipping after its first flush, then it will rebloom and look wonderful. The next plant is one that I think probably everybody knows, certainly here in the UK, and it's a cowslip or primula. So these are semi-evergreen, and that just means that it depends how harsh the winter is, whether they keep their leaves through the winter, but they'll grow back anyway. So they are perennial and they will multiply. And cowslips have these lovely sort of brightish green leaves with lovely nodding deep yellow flowers that are wonderfully fragrant, and they come out really early in spring. They like moist soil, not waterlogged, and they're really good in shade or semi-shade. They're going to flower from April to May. So this is something that I really want to have more of in my garden. Things that I can plant underneath bushes and trees that really want a shady spot but will flower. And I'm going to definitely be using a lot of cowslips to achieve this. I think actually, whilst I don't normally love yellow in my garden, as soon as spring comes, for some reason, I just really do crave some yellow daffodils or some yellow cowslips. I mean, cowslips are a much softer yellow than the really yellow daffodils, but yeah, that's why I've chosen cowslips. The last two plants I've chosen are both candy tufts, so they are Iberis. Iberis, not sure how you say it. So I've got one dwarf one and it's called Novena Candy Tuft, and this dwarf one is only going to grow to 15 centimeters high and 30 centimeters wide. It's got these lovely bright white flowers that are going to flower from March through to May, so it's quite early flowering, which is brilliant. The other good thing about Iberis is that it's evergreen, and this one is a really tidy, compact variety. These flowers, because they flower so early, are really good for butterflies. It's great ground cover. These are deer and rabbit resistant. They're like full sun, well-drained soil. And again, these are going to look good in like a gravel garden, rockeries, you know, gaps in paving, places like that. The other Iberis that I've got, or Candy Tuft, is called Masterpiece, and this one's taller, so it grows 45 centimeters tall and 45 wide. Again, much the same as the other one. It likes full sun and it's evergreen, but this is a new variety and it's got huge flowers apparently that bloom from spring through to autumn. They're white with like a light pink center. The flowers themselves are like clusters of flowers up to 7 to 7.5 centimeters wide, and I think that sounds absolutely amazing. I cannot wait for that to be growing in my garden. So that is the full list of plug plants that I've ordered. Now, all of these plug plants, whilst they're evergreen and hardy here for me in my garden, because they're so tiny, they do need to be potted on and grown on before I plant them out. I'm tempted to put the Perennials straight into the garden, but I'm not going to, because it really is the beginning of February. So I'm going to let them grow on a little bit, and as soon as I start seeing some new growth, then I will definitely be either putting them into pots or planting them out into the areas where I want them in the shade. But everything else, because they're so small, you definitely need to pot them on. So what I'm doing is I'm just planting them in the normal 9 centimeter pots. Those are the 3-inch pots. I'm using ordinary multi-purpose potting compost. This is the peat-free compost that I always use. So you just need to plant them to the depth of the root ball. So you just put them in the pot up to there. This is the top. And then I'm going to give them some protection. So I'm going to sort of harden them off basically. So they're going to go into my cold frames for a little while, and I will open the lids of the cold frames during the day and let them bask in the sunshine or the rain if we have rain, and then close them at night, and I will gradually sort of leave a gap at night. But actually we're getting down to -4 centigrade tonight, which is cold for us, very cold for us. So I'm definitely going to keep the cover on the cold frames. As soon as you can see, you know, new growth and you think that your plants are hardened off, then you can put them out in their final spots in the garden. I really hope that it's been interesting knowing what I've chosen and the reasons why I've chosen these plants today, and maybe it's given you some inspiration for what you might put into your garden to give yourself some evergreen structure. You know, these are just small plants. These aren't like big holly bushes or box plants or anything like that, but I think every little bit helps, and I particularly like some of these are going to be flowering very early on, because we all just want that little bit of colour as soon as we can get it in our gardens. So if you've enjoyed this video today and you think other people might enjoy it too, then please do give it a thumbs up, hit the like button, because that tells YouTube to show it to other people, and I would really appreciate it. And do subscribe to my channel if you want to see how these plants look in my garden in the future. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you all next time.